Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is called the Antarctic Freeze. And it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start our blender with ice. To that, we're going to add 1 ounce of vodka. Next, 1 ounce coconut rum. Next, Island Punch Pucker, 1/2 an ounce. Finally, pineapple juice, 1 ounce. Pineapple juice. And then we blend. Next, boys and girls, we take a second blender, and to that, with ice, we add more coconut rum, another ounce. I do like me some coconut rum. Blue curacao, 1 1/2 ounces, boys and girls, for some color. Lemon lime soda, I'm using Sprite. Recipe calls for 1/2 an ounce. 1/2 an ounce of Sprite. Then, boys and girls, we blend that. Next, boys and girls, we take our glass. We fill half our glass with our first blended mixture. There we go. About halfway full. Then we add the second blended mixture. Fantastic. We garnish with cherry. And there you have it, boys and girls. The Antarctic Freeze. It looks pretty. Yeah. That's good stuff. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
Quick question. How much do you trust your coworkers? It might be a lot less than you think, especially if murdering, morphing aliens are running around, secretly infecting everyone, like in this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, John Carpenter's The Thing. Paranoia and distrust run rampant almost immediately, even among the best of friends. You would think you would be able to tell if your good friend was infected and act accordingly. But honestly, I would accept my fate. I'm pretty sure Greg would probably shoot me either way, just to be safe. Survival of the fittest and all, you know. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hey, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm feeling fantastic. How are you, Greg?
I am too, Karen. We're our match. We're both fantastic. That never happens.
Because we're both lying. That's why. I'll tell you, I'm very sore. I went to a 5K yesterday.
You did?
That my dad is in charge of and has been for years. Run for the Poor in Milford, Ohio, if you want to sign up next year. And I have not run at all. And I thought, just run it. How hard could it be? It was pretty hard. Plus, now I can't walk up and down stairs. But otherwise, feeling fantastic.
But a little birdie told me, Karen, that you won your age group. So congratulations.
Thank you. It might be a sad commentary of women my age, but hey, whatever it takes. A win's a win.
Yeah,
That's
take
all that
it.
Matters.
Wear that shit like a badge of honor, Karen.
I will.
All right. I believe this week's film was my choice. Was it not?
It was. What did you choose for us?
The film I have chosen, Karen, is The Thing from 1982. Not to be confused with the 2011 prequel, Karen.
What could possibly go wrong? I'll tell you, listeners. You could be halfway through The Thing from 2011 and start wondering, when's Kurt Russell going to show up in this thing? And then realize that you're an hour into the wrong movie. But actually, it helped me a little with this movie, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I've not seen the prequel. I've not seen any part of the prequel. I had seen parts of this one, but not the whole thing.
Well, it's pretty good.
Well, maybe you can pick that as one of your choices in the future, Karen.
Well, possibly, except
since you've already watched it.
I only watched half of it.
But you got 24 hours to watch the rest, assuming
As
you watched it on Amazon Prime, Karen.
So why did you choose the 1982 one, Greg?
Thank you for asking, Karen. The 1982 version of The Thing, the original version, or not the original, it's a remake, was released on June 25th, Karen, 1982. This episode goes live on June 28th. So we're celebrating the 41st anniversary. Could that be correct, Karen?
It is correct.
The 80s weren't that long ago, were they?
They were like
certainly
10,
they weren't 41
10 years ago.
So that is why. And I'm a large John Carpenter fan. And I've never seen it from, like, actually sat down and watched the whole thing. I've come in parts here and there, but never watched the whole thing from start to finish.
So is the official title John Carpenter's The Thing, or does everybody just refer to it as that?
Everyone just refers to it as that
Okay.
because there was the original The Thing. And then there's.
What year was that?
When was that? It was featured in the Halloween movie,
In what way?
It was on
it
the
was
TV.
It was playing on the TV.
It was on the TV at one point. I think it was The Thing from Another World or something. It was what it was originally called. Oh, yes. 1951, The Thing from Another World.
Do you have a drink to go along with this film?
I do, Karen. The drink I've chosen is called the Antarctic Freeze, Karen. Do you see what I did there?
I did. It's a big leap. How do you make such a drink?
Well, Karen, we're going to need vodka, coconut rum, island punch pucker, pineapple juice, blue curacao, and lemon lime soda. I used Sprat.
Me too. But you also need 2 blenders.
We don't have to have 2 blenders. It helps if you do.
Mm-hmm.
So in one blender, we're going to combine 1 ounce of vodka, 1 ounce of coconut rum, 1/2 ounce island punch pucker, and 1 ounce of pineapple juice with ice.
Let's be clear. Lots of ice.
Yes, Karen. Blend thoroughly until smooth is the instructions. And then in a second blender, Karen, we combine another ounce of coconut rum, 1.5 ounces of blue curacao, and the lemon lime soda or Sprat thoroughly until smooth with ice, Karen.
Lots of ice.
So then we take our glass, fill it with the first mixture, which is kind of an off-white, and then we top it off with the second mixture, which is a beautiful blue, Karen. So we have a layered frozen cocktail of off-white and blue. And then we garnish with a cherry.
I still think you could pour them each. If you had 2 blenders, you just pour them in at the same time and they mix together. That would look more like the glacier, the different colors with the fissure up the front.
Well, Karen, on this podcast, we're all about you doing you. So you go ahead and do that.
I should admit, I did not use near enough ice. It should look like a slushie.
Yes.
Mine was not a slushie. So anyway, lots of ice, people.
And the final instruction is drink responsibly, Karen.
As you should.
Yeah.
Let's give everyone a chance to attempt to make their own Antarctic Freeze.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
All right, Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us
I do.
from this 1982 film?
Yes, I
You
even
have a
had.
synopsis for the 82 film
I
for the
do.
2011. All right. Then go on. Please tell me a story.
In remote Antarctica, a group of American research scientists are disturbed at their base camp by a helicopter shooting at a sled dog. When they take in the dog, it brutally attacks both human beings and canines in the camp, and they discover that the beast can assume the shape of its victims. A resourceful helicopter pilot and the camp doctor lead the camp crew in a desperate, gory battle against the vicious creature before it picks them off one by one.
Thank you, Karen, for that mostly accurate synopsis. All right, Karen, are we ready to get into the film?
Yes, I did watch it on Amazon Prime. Did you?
I did as well, Karen.
I think they've raised their prices.
I don't think so. It's John Carpenter's The Thing, Karen.
That it is. Let's go.
It was under $4 without tax. So pretty much standard Amazon price, I think. All right. The Thing from 1982. Rated R, Karen. The warning said violence and drug use. The film begins. We have credits, and we see a flying saucer flying towards Earth. What a planet that appears to be Earth.
True. And it appears to be a flying saucer.
Yes. Then we have words to read, Karen. Antarctica, winter 1982. Next, we see a helicopter chasing an animal that appears to be a dog.
You know what kind of dog, Greg?
I do, Karen. Is it really a dog, Karen?
I assume it's a dog.
Well, I wrote that it appeared to be a Siberian husky, but the actual animal was a wolf Alaskan Malamute hybrid.
The first dog was very big compared to the other sled dogs that they had there.
Yeah, that we see later. Yes.
Yeah,
and I should have realized, well, that's a bigger dog. And even when it was running, it looked bigger. Yeah. I originally wrote it was a Siberian husky, and they usually have like the blue whatever eyes. And this animal did not.
No, and Alaskan Malamutes are often used in films to represent wolves.
Well, this animal was half wolf.
But that we're going to talk about Siberian Huskies because there's more dogs in the film that are Siberian Huskies.
There are. I love Siberian Huskies, Karen. I've never owned one, though.
They're very beautiful.
They are. But they have health issues. So I know about. So
they're medium-sized and they're working sled dogs. They're from the Spitz family. They're recognizable by their thickly furred double coat, erect triangular ears, and distinctive markings. And they're smaller than the similar-looking Alaskan Malamute. And they can have blue eyes or brown eyes or both. They can have one of each.
One of each, yeah.
Striking blue eyes, really. So do you want to guess how popular they are in the ranking of dogs?
Like, what do you mean?
Dog ownership. How many people? You know, like
how many people?
Well, labs are the most popular dog.
Okay.
So where do you think they rank?
Well, you know, if they're
Rottweilers are what? Were 8 or something. Remember
So you want to know where they rank?
Yeah.
Well, if Rottweilers are 8, then I'm going to say these are like 14.
Pretty close, 16.
Okay.
I did look up. They're only, well, I don't want to say only. They're of average intelligence for a dog. So
everyone I've known, I have loved. So
I know they're beautiful dogs. So yeah, the film starts off and they're shooting at the dog. So right away, I'm pissed off.
Yeah, there's a helicopter chasing the dog. Then we see a sign that says United States National Science Institute, Station 4.
So I do have a question for you.
Go on.
The guy is shooting at the dog and he is not hitting the dog.
He is not.
So it must be very difficult to shoot something that small from a helicopter. Or is he just a terrible shot?
He went, I think he graduated from the Stormtrooper Academy.
Oh, okay. But the
helicopter was flying pretty low. I think he could have hit it. I think at one point they were almost directly over top of the animal.
And that rifle or whatever had a sight on it.
It was pretty smart, though. It darted in and out, and they had to circle around a few times. So, yeah, but he could have been, you know, of course, there's turbulence and all that shit you have to take into effect when you're flying. And
there's snow everywhere, even with goggles and such. It's probably hard to see with all that reflection, but he never does hit it.
He doesn't. Otherwise, the movie will be over real quick.
Yes.
Then we cut to the American station and we see men playing ping pong, and we see Kurt Russell, who I call Kurt Russell the whole fucking movie, except for the very end.
I don't, but we'll see what happens.
He's playing chess and drinking J&B Scotch whiskey, Karen.
There's a lot of J&B in this movie.
Playing chess on a computer.
Against a sexy woman's voice.
It's Adrienne Barbeau's voice, Karen.
Oh, is it?
It is. John Carpenter's wife at the time was Adrienne Barbeau.
There you go.
She provided the voice.
He loses the game.
And he is not happy about it. He takes his scotch and pours it in the computer, frying it.
Yeah,
What a waste of scotch, especially if you can't go to the corner store and buy more.
it's true.
But anyway, back to the helicopter, still chasing I wrote dog. It enters the American camp and we learn that the helicopter is Norwegian because it says Norge on the side of it. Man in a helicopter pulls a grenade and he throws it at the dog and misses.
By a lot.
It's still flying, yeah.
It's not even close.
Well, you can't come close to the animal while you're filming.
True.
The Humane Society is there, and they're not going to let that shit happen. They didn't have CGI back in 1982, Karen. At least not good CGI. So the helicopter lands and two men get out. The dog jumps on one of the Americans and is very friendly with it.
Licking its face.
One of the Norwegians pulls a grenade, and as he throws his arm back to throw it, he drops it. And then he gone because the grenade blows up. The other yells something to the Americans, and I wrote Norwegian. Is that a correct term, Karen?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. And takes a shot at the dog, hitting one of the Americans in the leg. The Americans return fire, killing the Norwegian. He gone. Next, we cut to the doctor stitching up the man who was shot. He only gets 4 stitches. One terrible wound. And they're on the radio trying to reach someone, but they are unable to, just to tell them what's going on, right? This is an international incident, Karen. You
Well,
need to
it
notify
is.
somebody.
Norwegians just came in and started shooting. They think at them, too.
Correct. So the men in the American camp decide they need to fly up to the Norwegian camp and take a look because they think maybe they've been out here so long they've gone crazy. But they do know they've been there 8 weeks or something. And they say, well, that's not long enough, but they argue.
Yeah, it's not long enough to get you to go stir crazy or have cabin fever.
And right here I wrote, there's something not quite right with that dog. Because we see it and it's
Watching.
yes. It seems to be watching. Like you can almost see the wheel spinning as it's watching everybody. And the cook plays Superstition by Stevie Wonder, and there's, I don't know, a little bit of comic relief or something.
Well, the helicopter leaves before that
Correct.
with Mac, who wears a ridiculous looking cowboy hat.
R.J. McReady, that's Kurt Russell's name.
Yes. But they call him Mac a lot.
They do. And we see the dog entering one of the men's rooms, but we don't know who it is because all we see is his shadow. And it's not obvious who it is. And right here I wrote, good acting by the dog.
Dog's good.
Yeah, he's not credited, but his name is Jed.
Oh.
This was his first film, uncredited, but then he was in The Journey of Natty Gann, White Fang, and White Fang 2. He's a hell of an actor. Next, the men arrive at the Norwegian camp by helicopter, those who went. I think it's just Kurt Russell and the doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote, it doesn't look so good, Karen. Pretty much immediately, they find the body of a man sitting in a chair with its neck slit, and he's holding a straight razor in his hand, like he slit his own neck.
And it's frozen. There's holes in the walls, and there's snow inside, and it's dilapidated.
Icicles.
Yeah, it's not good.
And then Kurt Russell, or McReady, finds what appears to be a bathtub, I wrote, made of ice, like an igloo. It looks like blocks of ice in the shape of a bathtub. It looks like
Don't Break the Ice game.
Oh, you went way back, Karen, didn't you?
Those squares, that's what it looks like. But right before that, they find a lab and the doc picks up all the notes. Unfortunately, they're in Norwegian, but he does gather up notes that were in the lab.
Then they find what appears to be the remains of a strange creature.
Frozen outside.
I guess they decide to take it with them because next they arrive at the American camp with the body, and the dog watches through the window.
Yes.
And the body appears to be part human and part something else, Karen.
Its head is split in 2 faces or something, right?
Yeah. It's crazy looking. Then they have the senior biologist, who was played by Wilford Brimley. I call him that most of the time. Perform an autopsy. And again, Karen, the dog watches.
He's pulling out all the organs, and he says it's normal set of internal organs, heart, lungs, kidney, liver, intestines, and he's pulling each one out.
Yeah, there is a short scene where we see they still can't get anyone in the radio before the autopsy. But yes, it's normal human internal organs. But I wrote it don't look normal.
The outside doesn't, but the inside is.
Then we have the men watching The Price is Right, Karen.
It's not The Price is Right. It's Let's Make a Deal.
God damn it, you're right. It is Let's Make a Deal.
With Monty Hall.
Yes, I know. I'm familiar.
Can you guess how many episodes of Let's Make a Deal Monty Hall did?
Jesus Christ, it was on every day, Karen. Much
From
like The Price is Right.
He was on there from 1963 to 1986.
Damn.
And then again from 1990 to 1991.
That's a lot of episodes. I'm not even gonna do the math in my head or try to. 350 probably a year, and you're doing
that's 5 days a week.
Something? That's true. All right, Karen, I have no idea. How many?
4,000 episodes.
4,000 episodes of Let's Make a Deal. You remember
and
watching?
All the kids our age know it. If you were sick, you watched that. Price is Right. You
Yes,
drank
you did.
your ginger ale, right?
Yes, you did. I drank a lot of 7-Up at the time. I didn't, quite went into Sprat yet. I was a 7-Up guy, kid.
My mom used to give us whatever soda it was because it would help with your stomach if it was upset.
Yeah.
But she always gave it to us warm, so it didn't taste as good.
Yeah, I watched the Today Show. Let's Make a Deal. Price is Right. And then my stories, Karen.
The stories, the soap operas came on after that. So
yeah.
So how are they watching? You think
it's
how
on
are they
VHS
getting
tape?
Yes, VHS tape back in the day. So they're not watching a feed of television.
No.
They're watching because he takes it out and says, "I know how this one ends."
That's right. They're in their Antarctic, Karen. There is no cable. There's
and
no
then he
satellite.
puts something else in, and this is the only place that I noticed the drug use.
Because he's smoking a joint.
Yeah, but that's it. Nowhere else.
They do it a few times.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't pay attention.
No, you weren't.
Okay.
I think this is the second time he's smoking a joint. But this time he's sharing it with
because it's what's
other
his
guy.
name? With the gang.
Benning, right? Yeah, it's George Bennings, the meteorologist, smoking a joint. He's sharing it with one of the other dudes, and I don't know which one it was. It might have been Nails, the cook, because I knew it was an African American gentleman. And there's only a couple of them. I don't think it was Childs, because he don't seem like the type.
No, he's a little too uptight for that.
Yeah. But anyway, next, Clark, the dog handler, takes the dog into the pen with the other huskies. But it's not a husky.
Well, and I was surprised they did this anyway for multiple reasons. Anyone who knows dogs, one would know that you'd have to quarantine the dog in case it had you don't know if it's got sickness or anything else. Plus, you don't just throw a dog that other dogs in a pack don't know.
Well, the dog handler seems to know what he's doing.
Does he?
The dog hesitates and it acts strange. Clark closes the door and then the other dogs begin to bark at it as the creature escapes from it. One of the dogs is chewing a hole through the chain link fence, Karen.
To get out, yeah.
Yeah, and the creature sprays it with something. Don't know what it is, but Clark comes back to see what is going on, and as he's entering, everything is quiet. Eerily quiet, Karen. He opens the pen and couple dogs escape.
At least one.
I think there's two that jump out and get away. And then Clark sees the creature and he closes the pen.
And the creature is kind of like the dog, but it's got a bunch of tubes kind of
tentacles
flowing. Yeah. And tentacles flowing out of it and squirting liquid and stuff. Yeah. It's
appendages. And Kurt Russell, R.J. McCready, hears the ruckus and he pulls the fire alarm. Clark says he doesn't know what's in there, but is pissed. right here I wrote, the creature looks like a disformed dog with tentacles.
It does.
It wraps its tentacles around another dog, the dog it was spitting at that was trying to chew a hole. Kurt Russell shoots the dog in the pen and the creature with a shotgun. Then he has Childs hit it with a flamethrower. And right here I wrote, why is Kurt Russell the only one that seems to know what's going on? Then we see Wilford Brimley cutting and opening up the creature.
Well,
doing
they
an autopsy.
flamethrow it.
They do.
So, Childs brings the flamethrower. They stand there for a while. I'm like, what are they doing? And the one guy is upset because they're killing the dogs. But anyway, so do you want to know when the first flamethrower was invented?
Oh my God, I would love to know about flamethrowers, Karen.
Because they are prominent in this movie.
I'm thinking it's pretty early because I had like little plastic army men that had flamethrowers when I was a kid, way, way back, Karen, when I was a kid. So I'm going to guess they were it's probably World War I.
Okay, give me a date. You can't just say
1913.
pretty close. So
Duh.
now there were the flamethrower has evolved. The principle has been around for a very long time. Different modifications of it, but this is the first official.
Are we counting like catapults with flaming balls? Okay.
But in 1916,
flaming cannonballs?
That's not real. It's kind of the same, but what they're talking about is pressured
flammable liquid.
Yes.
Yes.
Lit on fire. So the first flamethrower in the modern sense is usually credited to Richard Fiedler. He submitted evaluation models of his Flammenwerfer to the German army in 1901.
Sounds German, Karen.
In 1901.
And I would have guessed those Germans would have come up with the flamethrower. They're ingenious fuckers.
But 1916 is the year they say it was invented, but obviously it was in development from about 1901. There are two major types of fuel for a flamethrower, liquid and gel. Liquid fuels are things like gasoline, kerosene, naphtha, diesel. Heavier fuels burn longer but are harder to ignite. So different types of liquid fuel are commonly combined to enhance the characteristics of the flamethrower. What kind do you think Bruce uses in his iron?
Bruce Dickinson, Karen, is that who you're talking about?
He uses a flamethrower in the if you go to an Iron Maiden concert.
Well, not currently he isn't, but in the past he has.
Okay.
In the Legacy of the Beast tour, when they did Flight of Icarus, he used a flame cannon kind of thing. And it's probably, of all the things you named, my guess would be naphtha. I think it's probably the safest. But I could be wrong. I don't know. No idea.
You might be cool, but you'll never be cool as Bruce Dickinson with a flamethrower on the Iron Maiden stage. So they torch it.
Yeah, and then
then they take it in to analyze it.
And Wilford Brimley does his autopsy. He's Blair, the senior biologist. And he figures out pretty quickly that it is an organism who can ingest creatures and then take their shape.
Because he finds dog forms inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Not like it ate it, but like pieces of the creature are turning into dog. Because when you see it, it looks like half dog, half creature. It has kind of a long snout and ears, I think, but it looks like a demon dog, kind of. And the other one that they found looked more like a human, half creature. So he's putting it together.
And they believe that they got the creature before it had a chance to finish imitating the dogs. The next, Wilford Brimley begins questioning Clark, the dog handler. And right here I wrote, Clark don't look so good. But I think their purpose, I don't know if they're purposely misleading us, but at this point I don't. But
he looks in shock, but they all should be in shock.
He's got dark circles under his eyes. He don't look good. But
No,
it changes in this scene. He looks better at the end than he does at the beginning. So there's some continuity issues with that. But Clark says he was alone with the dog for maybe an hour. And I wrote, Wilford is suspicious. And I keep calling him Wilford Brimley, Karen, but he was an unknown when he was cast for this film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's why they cast him, because he was unknown and unrecognizable, and people wouldn't be suspicious when he went missing for a long time or anything until time for him to reappear.
So he's upset that the dog was wandering around the camp all day unsupervised.
Next, we see the men, and they're watching video from the Norwegian camp.
They found it when they visited the camp.
Yep. And they see video of the Norwegians finding something in the ice. And I wrote, they use thermite charges to bust it out. Is that what they said? Thermite?
All I heard was charges.
Sounded like they said thermite, which is very fucking hot. That's all I know about it.
It's definitely bigger than the ice bucket. Well, what would you call that? It looked like a hot tub made of ice, but
yeah, it did.
Rectangular though. But this is
I called it a bathtub.
Yeah, it looks like a bathtub. There you go. But this is much bigger than that.
It's a big round
crater. It looks like a crater.
So Kurt Russell decides to fly up there and take a look.
They can kind of tell where they've been concentrating their research somehow. They figure it out.
And they find what appears to be a flying saucer. I wrote probably from the beginning of the film. And Norris, the geologist, hypothesizes that the ship had been buried for 100,000 years, Karen.
Yeah, they rappel down into the crater. That's how big it is. And then they go and look at the ship.
And I wrote just like the Kiss song.
Which song?
100,000 Years by the Kiss.
Oh. And the top's open.
It is. The hatch.
Oh,
and
yes,
then they
the
find a large rectangular shape that has been carved out of ice, it looked like.
Kind of like the one that they found at the station.
Yep. Then back at the camp, they begin talking about ancient aliens before it was a thing, Karen. And I wrote, Wilford Brimley seems worried.
He's doing a computer simulation.
Well, not yet. Well, now he is.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote, computer program showing how the creature assimilates, ?
And it looks like the graphics of Space Aliens or something.
Space Invaders.
Yes, Space Invaders or Pac-Man.
Or asteroids. And we have words to read. The computer says, probability that one or more team members may be infected by intruder organism. 75%, Karen. Projection. If intruder organism reaches civilized areas, entire world population infected 27,000 hours from first contact. And then Wilford Brimley takes his revolver from his desk drawer. Looks like a 38 to me, Karen. And he does have some Smirnoff vodka there too on his desk. So we got J&B Scotch and Smirnoff vodka.
Absolutely.
And we cut to Kurt Russell drinking his J&B Scotch.
I did make a note that Kurt Russell has a lot of guy liner on. Not saying I don't like it.
What do you mean, Karen?
I don't know what guy liner is.
He doesn't have like eyeliner on.
Yes, he does.
He does not.
100% he does. And a lot of it.
But he's looking at torn up underwear, Karen.
That the cook brought from the kitchen and said, don't put your dirty drawers in my kitchen.
So next they lock the remains of the creature in a storeroom.
Before you go on, we should kind of emphasize that Blair is
Wilford
suspicious.
Brimley.
Yes, Blair is suspicious of everyone. He knows what could happen. So now he's grabbing his gun. I didn't know if it was to protect himself or to shoot himself if he thought he was infected.
Me too.
I wasn't sure at that point, but he is extremely suspicious right now of everyone.
He knows.
Yeah. He knows the probabilities and everything.
He knows what's going to happen. It's pretty much inevitable. It's like a disease that may be airborne and everyone's going to get infected, right?
It apparently doesn't take much, but I don't know if we know that yet.
So Bennings and Windows lock up the remains of the creature in a storeroom. And then Windows leaves to get the keys to lock it in, leaving Bennings alone in the room.
Yeah, what's he doing in there?
I don't know. He's doing something in a corner. I don't know. But then I wrote the creature doesn't seem quite dead.
No, it does not. It moves under the blanket.
Then the assistant biologist,
Because I said, how could it do that if all its organs have been ripped out? But whatever.
well, it doesn't move, but there's like seems to
No,
be
it
fluid.
moves.
It seems to be fluid coming from under the blanket.
The blood's dripping out from it.
Yeah. So then assistant biologist Fuchs tells Kurt Russell that Blair was acting odd.
Yeah, he's locked himself in his room and he won't answer the door.
He tells Kurt Russell that according to Blair, the creature isn't quite dead yet, according to his notes.
Yeah, he stole his notes from the lab.
Yeah, so the cells may still be alive, even though a creature appears to be dead, right?
Yes. There is still cellular activity.
Back in the storeroom, Bennings has been attacked by the creature. Windows runs to get the others, leaving the door wide open. Kurt Russell and the assistant biologist, Fuchs, arrive to find Bennings missing. But they find Bennings outside, and he don't look so good, Karen.
Yeah, why did he run outside? I don't understand that.
Don't know.
Like, why doesn't the creature just stay where it is and change completely?
It hasn't completely assimilated yet.
I know, but why does it run outside where it's freezing?
No idea.
But yeah, they get to Bennings is outside. They run outside. They say it isn't Bennings. And we know that because
his hands are all fucked up.
He still has creature hands.
So Kurt Russell pours some flammable fluid on him and lights him on fire. He gone. He's the first of the American guys to die, right?
Yes.
Okay. Not counting the animals.
Yes.
So then Kurt Russell explains to the station commander, Gary, that it wasn't Benning. It was the creature. Kurt Russell tells them that they need to burn the remains of the other creature. And right here I wrote, where is Clark, the dog handler? We haven't seen him in a while. But the men wonder where Wilford Brimley is. Where's Blair? No one can find him. And I wrote, Kurt Russell seems to be running the show, even though he's not the station commander. Not sure what's going on there.
He's the cool kid. Everybody likes him.
Yeah, but Kurt Russell then sees Blair run away from the helicopter, apparently. He goes to investigate and finds that the helicopter has been sabotaged. And he hears a gunshot and runs back inside. Inside, Wilford Brimley is going a little cray-cray, Karen. Yeah. I think he's been drinking. He insists that no one is entering or leaving the camp.
He's killed the dogs, yeah.
And he has sabotaged all the vehicles. And he's taking an axe to the computer equipment.
And yes, and the radio equipment, so they can't radio out. Which at this point, you don't know. Is he just so upset that he doesn't want the creature to leave that he's making sure?
That's what I believe at this point.
Okay. Not that the creature is in him, making sure that no one can get out.
I don't think it is. But I could be wrong. Once Clark hears that he killed the dogs, he goes and runs to check on the dogs.
They do subdue Blair eventually.
Yeah, but Blair tries to shoot Childs. He empties his revolver. And once he is out of bullets, the others rush him. Cut to Clark finding the dogs hacked to death. Then they lock Blair in the tool shed. And they give him a shot of something. But they do leave him a bottle of Smirnoff vodka, Karen. And Blair tells Kurt Russell he doesn't know who to trust. He tells Kurt Russell as he is leaving to keep an eye on Clark, the dog handler. He says, watch him close.
So they put him out there because They think he might be infected, or just because he's lost his damn mind?
They don't know. He's a danger. That's all they know.
Okay.
I think he could be. I think. But he seems to be talking pretty sensible. Although he is pushing blame onto someone else. So we don't know,
Yes.
right? So next, the men try to decide a way to determine which one of them could be infected. Dr. Copper thinks a blood serum test, Dr. Karen, might be able to tell who was infected. Any thoughts, Dr. Karen?
Nope.
Okay.
So, well, what he's going to do is he's going to take blood samples from each of the individuals.
But I think he needs to do a test, which is why they say they have good blood available, right?
Yes. So what's going to happen is, say you're infected by the thing, of course, and I am not, right?
Well, duh.
And they have blood available there already for like blood transfusions if someone needed it. Okay. So they take a sample of your blood and they take a sample of my blood, and they're going to mix it in with the blood that's there available, that was there before the creature came.
Mhm.
So it's
The clean
pure,
blood.
clean.
The it would be called the control.
Kind of, yes. But when you add my blood to the clean blood, nothing would happen. But if you're infected and they added your blood to the clean blood, it would start to transform the clean blood. So there would be some sort of reaction. So they could tell who was infected and who wasn't. And they would test everyone.
And Kurt Russell tells them to keep an eye on Clark. And he also tells assistant biologist Fuchs to start going through Blair's notes. So they go to get the blood to do their test. And of course, the blood has been damaged, Karen. Is it like thawed out, or it's been the fridge is open? So apparently
it looks like
exposed.
They try to just ruin it all, but there's plenty of blood there. I don't know why it's ruined exactly.
Okay. So it doesn't have to, well, I guess it doesn't have to stay cool, does it? Because
no, eventually it would clot and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, you would want it to stay cool for as long as possible, but it hasn't been that long since it was like 5 minutes. Well, it would clot.
Well, I do know when I
yes.
got my transfusion, they told me it's going to feel cold. It's just going in, and it did. So I try to keep it cool.
But there was plenty there. I think it would still have worked, but whatever. They don't have any pure blood now.
But they learned the blood has been damaged. And apparently the doctor is the only one who had access, and he admits as much. And the commander admits that he's the only one who has a key. They both admit it. And then everyone starts accusing each other.
Paranoia.
Yep, which is really what the film was about, Karen.
Distrust, yes.
Then Windows, who's the radio operator, he runs away. And he breaks some glass and grabs a shotgun.
He's freaking out. So he was injured by Bailey when Bailey was having his moment.
He was.
He got hurt. So he's bleeding and not in good shape. And he just doesn't trust anyone. Nobody trusts anyone at this point.
And the station commander, Gary, chases down Windows and pulls his gun. Tells Windows to put his gun down. Kurt Russell comes in and talks him into putting his gun down. Then the commander turns his gun on the others and gives his word that he did not go near the blood. But he does put his gun down and offers to let someone else be in command, which is good on his part.
Because no one trusts him now because he had access to the blood.
Yeah, he's the only one that had the key. Yeah.
Good faith, he's saying, I didn't do it, but I can see no one's going to trust me, so someone else should be in charge.
And I wrote, I believe they picked Kurt Russell.
Well, Childs says, I'll do it.
He does.
But no one wants him.
No, because he's a hothead, apparently.
So who do you think would be the leader, you or me? Who do you think the
Kurt Russell burns the blood. Moving on.
Who's the hothead? Yes, he does. He burns it. Flame throws it.
And then he gives a soliloquy, I wrote. And he separates the men. And he has the doctor, Clark, and Station Commander Gary shot up with morphine and tied up. Then he begins making a diary on a cassette recorder, Karen. I think I had that exact same cassette recorder. Basically, he says all they can do is wait.
Yeah, it's a little depressing.
So then the assistant biologist Fuchs suggests that everyone prepare their own meals and they should all eat out of cans.
Yes, because he's saying, we don't know how it's transferring. We don't know what's happening. So let's just basically protect ourselves. Yeah. And there is a storm coming, or it's already there at this point, I think.
And as he is making notes, the lights go out. He sees a dark figure move past his door because he has a flare. He takes a torch and goes out into the snow. He finds clothing with McReady's name on it.
This is Fuchs, right?
Yes.
From the lab.
Yep. Kurt Russell tells the men that someone blew a fuse. That's why the lights went out. So they buddy up to go look for Fuchs because he's missing.
So all of these guys, they use a lot of flares. Do flares not get hot when you're holding them? Or is it because they're wearing gloves that they are fine holding those things?
I think it's fine. Yeah. But I don't know.
I've never held one in my hand.
Me either. Have you ever held a Roman candle in your hand and fired at your siblings?
Or friends?
Or friends. Yeah.
I refuse to answer on the grounds that I may incriminate myself.
So you're pleading the fifth.
Yeah.
Fifth Amendment, boys and girls.
Have you?
Well, hell yeah.
We did it more with bottle rockets, though, because you could hold on to the bottle and shoot.
You ever hold a bottle rocket in your hand without in a bottle and just let it
No,
go when it started to
not.
ignite? Okay.
I didn't live on the edge like you.
I didn't say I did. I'm just saying. I'm just asking. Just asking.
Just asking questions here.
Yeah.
Just asking.
I'm just curious. So they go to see Blair in his shack.
Well, we got, just to be clear, Fuchs finds the clothing ripped apart out in the snow that says, like you said, McReady.
McReady.
So I thought they called him McReady, but whatever. But so now we're supposed to be suspicious of Kurt Russell because his clothing was out there.
Were you suspicious of Kurt Russell, Karen?
Well, no, he's the star, but
Exactly.
whatever. But everyone else is supposed to be.
So they ask Blair, Wilford Brimley, if he has seen Fuchs. And I made a note, he has a noose tied up in his shack now, Karen.
Yeah, it just appears. I don't know why that.
Well, that gives me further verification that he's not infected.
Because
Unless
he's going
he's
to kill
trying
himself.
to fool the others, yeah. But he does beg to come back inside. And they
A
basically
little too hard.
They basically just shut the door. Good day. The little tiny door.
But because he says, I've changed. I'm better. I'm all better now. I was bad before, but now I'm fine. Of course, you're going to close the door on that.
Next, they find the burned body of Fuchs. And they find flares next to him. And they hypothesize that he may have burned himself before the creature could get to him. Works for me. So next, McReady, is that what you said? McReady?
I don't know. That's what
Kurt
I thought
Russell
they said. Yeah. Or Mac.
And Knowles, the cook, go to check on McReady's shack because they see that the light is on and he says, I turned it off.
So Kurt Russell lives separately kind of from the rest of the men because they're researchers sent there to do research. He's a pilot. He's off on his own. It almost looked like a little lookout tower or something.
It was. Yeah, it looked like it.
Maybe 30 yards from the camp. I don't know. But he's not mixed in with them. He's obviously welcome there. He can go in and he's been there, play pool, drink, whatever. But he has a separate quarters than the rest of them.
But they haven't been there very long either at this point.
No, but he says he
The
turned the light
Norwegians
off.
had been there 8 weeks when all the shit went down, and they've been there less than that, I think.
But he says, I turned the lights off when I left, and
Yeah,
now the lights are on.
And while they're investigating his shack, the others begin boarding up the compound because it's been like 45 minutes and they're.
Yes, so they're not going to let him back in.
No.
Yeah, that's the reason they're boarding it up.
Knowles, the cook, arrives and they let him in, and he tells the others that he left McReady out there because he found some torn clothes with his name on it. So it's this winter, it's like a blizzard, and they were like tied together with a rope, and he let him go. He cut him loose.
Yeah, so the doorways, if you see, there are certain shots that there are almost like poles in the ground with rope running through it. So there are ropes to get back into the compound, into the buildings.
In case of a whiteout, you can find your way back. Hello, boys and girls. You know, doing a podcast can be thirsty work. Lucky for you, we have all our drink recipes on our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want to see how each drink is made, hit up our YouTube channel, Scary Spirits Podcast, and watch me play bartender. I show you how to make every themed drink. Now, back to the show.
So, I mean, this is as good a time as any, but how cold do you think was the coldest ever recorded in Antarctica?
We talking Fahrenheit?
Yeah, we're going to go Fahrenheit. It was in August of 2010.
Of course it was August.
And I'm pretty sure
it's winter in the southern hemisphere, right?
It was made by satellite, I'm guessing.
Is Antarctica in the southern hemisphere? So that's the South Pole, basically, right? It's in
the
Antarctica.
Southernmost continent and site of the South Pole. It's virtually uninhabited, ice-covered landmass.
I'm going to pick a nice round number and say minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit.
Because you would think it's really, really cold. And it is. It's minus 135.8.
Okay.
But I was thinking it was going to be colder than that.
I don't know what that would feel like. So I don't know.
I know. But it just seems like it would be.
Do you know what it is in Celsius?
Minus 94.7.
I should have gone Celsius. Because zero is freezing point, right? In Celsius?
Yeah. So you would have said minus 100, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So the area of Antarctica is 5.275 million miles squared. Its elevation, 16,066 feet. The population ranges from 1,000 to 5,000 because it's seasonal. I should clarify, too, the coldest temperature recorded was by satellite, minus 135.8 degrees Fahrenheit. The coldest temperature recorded by machines that were actually in Antarctica was 128.6, obviously minus 108.6 Fahrenheit, in 1983 at the Soviet station.
So next, McReady arrives at the base camp and he tries to enter, but they don't let him in.
He looks frozen too. That's some good frozen looking skin.
Then they hear glass breaking in the storeroom and they cut down the door with an axe because, of course, he's the only one that's got the key for some reason. And they find Kurt Russell in there with a torch and dynamite. He threatens to blow the whole camp up if anyone comes near him. He forces them to put down their guns. Norris and Knowles try to jump him from behind, but he fights them off. And then Norris, the geologist, stops breathing in the struggle, and they cut to them trying to revive him as Kurt Russell holds them all off with a flamethrower. I wrote blow.
But he's thawing out, and he's looking like he's going to drop it at any minute. But they've got a defibrillator to try to revive the guy. They think he had a heart attack.
Yes, and I wrote one of the men grabs a scalpel from an operating table very slyly.
But we can't see who it is.
It's an African American, so it's probably Childs because I don't think Knowles has.
I don't think it is. I think it's I don't think it's an African American.
It looked like an African American hand.
No, it's not, because we see who it is later.
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me know when we get there. So next, Dr. Copper tries to use a defibrillator on Norris, but his hands go right through the stomach and his arms are bitten off.
Well, yes, it collapses into his chest cavity. So his hands follow the defibrillator as his stomach basically opens up into a hole. So his hands fall in because he's yelling, clear, and holding it on, clear. And they're jumping him. And then it just, his hands fall in. This got me a little bit. So I was like, oh, because his hands fell in. And then the thing chops his hands off, bites him off. Like Little Shop of Horrors, it looked like, just bites him off. So he pulls up 2 stubs of arms. And I said, oh, again.
They had a stuntman double who was a double amputee.
Well, it looked real.
And they attached fake arms so that when he pulled up, his real arms, his amputated arms were exposed.
Oh, that makes sense because it looked real.
But Dr. Copper, he gone.
So I made a note, and I don't know if this will make sense to you or not, but the effects in this film looked very similar to me to Evil Dead. They reminded me of, it was just very similar. A lot of it to me looked that way. They're pretty good for 1982, but it's a gory movie overall. But it just had that same feel to me. They didn't share special effects guys or anything.
Well, this film came out in 82. Evil Dead came out in 81.
But it wasn't the same person that did it.
It was the 80s. Was not.
Just really reminiscent of Evil Dead to me.
Finding just on a real quick search here. So then the creature rises from the stomach of Norris, and the others run out as Kurt Russell torches it with the flamethrower. Norris's head detaches and tries to run away, and I wrote, I don't think the others see it.
So Kurt Russell was out in the storm for a while, longer than everyone else, right? And as the head detaches from this guy, it's these long strings, and his head kind of falls to the ground, and then it sprouts its own legs, almost like a spider, right? I thought maybe Kurt Russell saw it and ignored it to let it get away in that moment, because no one seems to see this. Well, not.
It was behind the table.
It was under the desk. It's hiding under the desk.
They're looking at him. They're looking at the body laying, like they're standing at the foot of the body, and the head kind of falls over the end of the table and falls down, so they can't see it.
Gotcha.
And then it crawls under the desk where it sprouts its spider legs.
It goes out the door. And I thought he let it go, because in that moment.
But they do turn and see the head run out the door, and then Kurt Russell torches it with the flamethrower.
So I said, okay, I'm wrong.
Kurt Russell tells the men to tie each other up. Child says, "You ain't tying me up." And Kurt Russell says, "Well, then I will kill you." And he says, "Well, kill me." And Kurt Russell puts a gun right to his forehead and cocks it and says, "I mean it." So there's lots of tension.
Well, that's when Clark goes at him with the scalpel.
Clark, the dog handler, tries to rush Kurt Russell. He has his fist. He doesn't have a scalpel.
They showed it. They showed he's holding the scalpel. They showed it.
All right. I didn't see that.
So
Kurt Russell turns and shoots him right in the fucking head. He gone.
Yep. And then everyone else just gets tied up.
Yep. Okay. Tie me up.
Yep.
So Kurt Russell says he's going to draw blood from all the men and then hit it with, he mentions a hot needle to see how the blood reacts. He's hypothesizing that the blood will try to, or something in the blood will try to protect itself, right?
Yeah, he says something about if a man bleeds, it's just tissue, but if the thing bleeds, each individual particle is almost like a separate being, and it will try to get away.
He hopes that the blood will show some signs of it trying to survive. So for some reason, he trusts Windows more than the others because he's the only one that's not tied up. And Windows slices the finger of all of the men and puts it
Takes
into
a shit ton of blood, too.
a petri dish.
Yes, it is a petri dish.
With their names on it.
A lot. Yes, already written out.
Yeah.
Labeled appropriately.
Then Kurt Russell takes some copper wire and heats it up with his blowtorch. And right with the tension is high. Puts the copper wire in Windows' blood first, and it doesn't do anything.
I think each person getting tested doesn't, I mean, it doesn't.
This is almost like a whodunit at this point, right? It's like we're all back in the study and we're going to reveal who did it.
But they don't seem to know if they're infected or not. In each person who gets tested, when Windows' blood doesn't react, he's relieved.
Yeah. Well, he's not infected, but he doesn't know how you would feel if you were infected.
Right. I'm saying, though, they don't know necessarily.
Well, I don't know if
Yeah, I don't.
I think the person who is infected knows because it's not them anymore because they gone.
Right, but they don't. But the person who's not infected doesn't know what it feels like to be infected, so they're relieved when they find out they aren't.
Correct.
That makes sense.
So then Kurt Russell tests his own blood. It doesn't react.
And he says, "I'm going to show you what I know is already true."
Then he tests the blood of Dr. Copper, even though he gone already. And it does not react. Then he tests the blood of Clark, the dog handler, even though he's already gone. And it doesn't react. So then Childs calls him a murderer.
He does. Which he doesn't even react to.
He don't care. I wouldn't either.
Yes, you would.
No, I wouldn't. So then he tests the blood of Palmer, the pothead.
It was self-defense. He went at him with a scalpel. So, you know.
Then he tests the blood of Palmer, the pothead, and it reacts. The blood jumps out of the petri dish, Karen.
It starts coming along the floor.
Yeah. Towards Palmer, I think, who is tied up.
Oh, maybe.
In a chair along with the others. They're all kind of bound together.
It could have infected the others, though.
Then Palmer begins to change, and the other man tied next to him begin to panic.
Well, of course.
Kurt Russell can't get his flamethrower to work. I'm not sure I would want him like flaming up the guy right next to me anyway. But then Windows, he has a flamethrower too, but of course he hesitates with his, and he is attacked.
Yes, and Palmer's trying to eat him like a penguin eats a fish.
Mm-hmm.
Head first. He's trying to swallow him whole almost.
Kurt Russell finally gets his flamethrower working and torches the creature.
And Windows.
Yeah, it breaks through the wall and collapses in the snow. And Kurt Russell throws a stick of dynamite at it, and it blows up. Back inside, the body of Windows begins to change, and Kurt Russell torches it. He gone. Next, they test the blood of Knowles, the cook. No reaction. They test the blood of Childs. No reaction. And Childs demands to be cut free from the camp commander because he's the only one left, just the commander. Kurt Russell was suspicious of the commander because he's the only one who had the key to the blood. So he's testing him last. Then they test the commander's blood, and once again, there is no reaction.
So he's clean and Copper is clean because they tested him. So who went at that? Doesn't prove anything about the blood then, because they were the only two that had access and they're both clean.
Yeah. Doesn't. So next they go to test Wilford Brimley back in the shack, Karen. He tells Childs before they leave that if Wilford Brimley, character named Blair, tries to come back and they aren't with him, torch him.
Yeah, so Childs is standing guard in the camp, and the other three of them go to find Blair out in the shed.
Get to the shed and find the door open, Karen. That can't be good. They wonder how he got out because the door was bolted from the outside. And then they find loose floorboards in the shack and a tunnel.
He Shawshanked his way out.
Men go down in the tunnel with their torches and they find a ship. I wrote, Karen. Apparently he's been building in the tunnel what looks a lot like a flying saucer to me.
It does, but there's no way to get it out of there. He's built like he's dug into the snow.
If he builds it, he can get out with enough propulsion. He can get out through the snow.
But you got to figure the ground is solid ice. How'd he dig through that?
Well, he's been busy, Karen.
Yes, he has.
And apparently he's an alien now. So
he's dug underneath and dug a lab. There was like he was studying or something down in there.
Yeah, I don't know. Looked like there was a bandsaw and all kinds of shit down there. I don't know how he got that down
there. Well, I
guess
he was in the
maybe
tool
it was in
shed.
the storeroom. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was the tools.
Could be. So then the men see what appears to be Childs leaving the camp.
Yes.
And then the lights go out. And then they hypothesize that the thing wants the camp to freeze so it can be found later by a rescue team. It can go into hibernation.
Yes, and
then be found later and infect the world.
And start all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's giving up now, but it'll be found again later. And Max says Kurt Russell, it's going to be 100 below in 6 hours.
So he decides to heat things up.
Yes.
So he lights some dynamite, throws it down the tunnel, and blows up the vehicle.
They can't let the thing freeze again, he says.
So McReady, Commander Gary, and the cook, Knowles, decide to torch the camp, pretty much.
Who would sign up to be a cook in Antarctica?
Basically, they're saying they may not get out alive, but they want to be sure the creature does not either.
So they just start blowing shit up everywhere, the whole compound.
And they go to the generator room, and the generator's gone, Karen. It's gone. It's not fixable.
Max says,
it's gone.
Can we fix it? They said, no, it's literally gone.
Then they place dynamite, and they're going to blow up the entire camp.
So right now, they're going to blow everything up. He wants to sink it into the ice. And at this point, I said, where's Blair? Because, he wasn't in the shed.
No, he wasn't. And maybe if we had seen this in 1982, we wouldn't know or recognize Wilford Brimley, so we wouldn't wonder where he was, which is why they cast him in this role.
But I did wonder where he was. Because
but if you didn't know Wilford Brimley, would you?
Well, yeah. Maybe not until they went out but they saw that he dug a hole in the bottom of his shed and well, where is he? He's built this thing. They cast him
because he was unknown and he was like kind of an everyman character. So the audience wouldn't be wondering where he was.
Well, I wondered where he was, but not until right now.
But would you have in 1982 if you didn't recognize Wilford Brimley? That's the one I'm asking.
Yes, because they saw he built the freaking spaceship out there. Right. Nobody said, I wonder where he is.
No,
they aren't looking for him in the compound or anything. They're just blowing everything up.
So as they're placing dynamite under the camp to blow the whole thing up, Gary's flashlight goes out and Wilford Brimley attacks him.
Sticks his fingers in his mouth.
And we see him dragging the body away.
By his face. Because his hand was in his mouth and you see his fingers stretching his face and everything.
Next, Knowles, the cook, goes looking for Gary. It's never good. And Kurt Russell calls to the others asking how it's going, but there is no answer. So he immediately becomes suspicious. And he raises the plunger on the detonator. All he has to do is throw it down and everything blows up. And then he lights a stick of dynamite, Karen.
Yeah, I thought it was a flare,
pretty
but
ballsy.
It wasn't.
No.
Yeah, it's dynamite.
With the long fuse. And the creature tunnels underground and heads towards Kurt Russell. It grabs the plunger and pulls it underground, and then it rises from the ground. Kurt Russell takes his stick of dynamite that's already lit.
The creature looks like one of the dogs that's changed.
Kurt Russell throws the stick of dynamite at the creature and says, "Fuck you too." And then we see the station go up in a ball of flames, Karen.
So you think the creature fell on the charger? Or what would you call it? What do you call that? Is it what
He
igniter?
blew it all up. Chain
with
reaction.
Oh,
One
'cause
stick of dynamite blows up the rest. That's what I was
Okay.
thinking. So next we see Kurt Russell walking around the remains of the cam, the burning remains, and Childs arrives. Kurt Russell begins questioning him about where he was. He says he thought he saw Blair and went out after him and got lost in the storm. Childs asks how they are going to make it once the fire goes out. Kurt Russell says maybe we shouldn't. They have this back and forth, where it's trust, distrust kind of thing. And Kurt Russell says that if either one of them are infected, the other isn't in much shape to do anything about it. So what does it fucking matter at this point? Child says, well, what should we do? And Kurt Russell says, well, why don't we just sit here and wait for a while and see what happens? And then they share a bottle of scotch, J&B scotch, Karen. You know what J&B stands for?
No.
Justerini and Brooks, Scottish whiskey makers. Founded in 1749, Karen. The firm has been supplier to every British monarch since the coronation of King George III in 1761.
Nice.
Then we have credits.
So they're just sitting there.
Drinking scotch.
They're going to freeze to death.
Yep.
But
Maybe.
the creature...
Maybe.
Well, the creature freezes.
Maybe.
We know that because it was dug up before. But now it looks like, if it is one of them, it looks like a man. I guess if it can last longer than the human, it could change back into its other form.
Credits the end, Karen. And during the credits, it says, based on the story Who Goes There by John W. Campbell Jr.
How old is that?
It's a novella by John W. Campbell, 1938, written under the pen name Don A. Stewart. And the novella is based in Antarctica as well, with a shape-shifting alien monster. All right, Karen. Anything you were pleasantly surprised by or really enjoyed in this film?
Well, I have a question first.
Of course, Karen.
Oh.
You're always full of questions. Go on.
So do you think that when the alien takes over the body, that the person still retains all the knowledge?
No, person's dead.
But how does it?
It kills the person and assumes their shape.
Okay, but
You
so
can
they
find
don't.
the body of the person if you look, because there
But
is
how
the
did-
body of Windows and the creature Windows as well.
When they're all sitting there and they don't know who could be infected, and
It
who
ingests
isn't,
as part of their DNA and assumes them.
so it would have their memories and things.
I don't think it has their
Here's what I'm
memories.
asking, basically. So
Yeah, get to the point, Karen.
I once told my nieces and my cousin, whatever, that we saw a movie once and the person came back and the medium was telling them what, they were saying. Like, oh, like if I came back, oh, your Aunt Karen loves you, blah, blah, she's very happy. I said, don't believe any of that unless that medium says a certain word that we have, right? So if I was on this compound and we were doing research in the Antarctic, and could I ask you something that only you would know, like a certain word or a certain thing? Would the creature know the answer to that?
I don't think so. No.
So as long as we have a word, we'll know who's the real person and who's the creature.
I think so.
Okay. Just wondering. All right, go ahead. Ask me what?
Anything you were pleasantly surprised by or really enjoyed in this film, Karen? From
Well, I think-
1982. Do you remember 1982, Karen?
Vaguely. I think the whole premise of paranoia and distrust is interesting, and how quickly that can take hold. You really would have to be able to trust people, and I don't think many people do that.
Nope.
And trusting the wrong person will certainly get you burned.
Get you killed, Karen.
I mean, if you like gory, it was pretty gory. If you like gore for back from that, but it's 1982.
Pretty tame for today.
Well, for today, but I'm saying
Mhm.
back, if you appreciate it back then, I think it would have been pretty gory.
I agree.
There's lots of blood if you like that kind of thing. There's heads coming off, limbs getting it's pretty
I
intense.
think Evil Dead from 81 is worse, but yeah.
Well, but that's more camp. This was less camp, I think, and more trying to be serious. I just think the effects were similar. The stringy stuff coming from, body parts, I thought was similar. I mean, Kurt Russell kind of plays the same role most of the time, don't you think? He kind of has that same.
He's not Captain Jack in this or whatever it is. Captain Ron. That's what he was in that one movie, Captain Ron. And he's not the same character as he was in Overboard. I think he was in that with Goldie Hawn.
But I guess I'm thinking of Escape from New York.
He's not the same character as he was in all those Disney movies he did when he was young.
But that's when he was younger. Tombstone.
Well, you mentioned Escape from New York. This was the next film John Carpenter did after Escape from New York.
Same kind of attitude in it, I think. I mean, I like him. I think he was good. I think the acting was fine. The sets were okay. There wasn't anything I thought was exceptional, but I can't really. What did you really like about it? What's your long list of things?
Well, number one, I'm thinking Karen's going to like this because there might be sequel potential.
There's definitely sequel potential.
Even though there wasn't one as of yet. But
which is interesting.
McGreedy and Childs are both there, and we don't know if either one of them are infected.
Well, and we didn't see Blair die. We saw explosions.
Oh, Blair died.
Well, we didn't see it.
We didn't see. Or they blew him up. He threw the dynamite at him.
Yeah, but we didn't see we didn't see Knowles die. We don't know.
No, we didn't see Knowles. That's true.
So assuming, yes, it's possible they blew up, sure. But sequels have been built on a lot less than that.
It's true. I also wrote the music. It's very good. Points it was very suspenseful music, almost like heartbeat rhythmically.
I didn't notice the music. I mean,
oh my God, it was pretty good. And this is the only John Carpenter film where he did not do the music. It was done by someone else.
Why?
I don't know. I guess he didn't want to do it, so he hired someone else to do it. I think it's good. I think it's very good.
I thought it was very suspenseful. I did like that, I should say. And you couldn't tell.
And like I said, it's almost like a whodunit.
Yeah, you couldn't tell who was infected and who wasn't.
Who is it? Who did it? Who didn't? Who's guilty? Who isn't? You don't know.
No, it's very suspenseful and tense.
Oh, yeah. And I can see if I put myself in that situation, I wouldn't trust anybody.
Well, I would have been like the doctor and just locked myself in a room by myself. But I don't know how you could.
With a bottle of vodka, Karen?
Well, but you would need supplies. That's the unfortunate thing.
He was eating out of a can, so apparently they left him with something. He's in the storeroom or something.
It would be tough. You would have to really trust your colleagues, and it's hard to say. A lot of those people might not have known each other. They could have just been put together.
And plus,
on the
you're
team.
Like in Antarctica, and that's like isolation in and of itself, right? All right, Karen, what didn't you like?
Well, I didn't like
anything.
They killed the dogs. I don't like that.
They weren't dogs. Well, the Thing killed the dogs.
There was
They killed the Thing.
There was dog death.
But they weren't dogs. They were infected.
Well, we don't know if they were infected when.
That one was.
The one was, but when he hacked the dogs, the remaining dogs, we didn't know if those were infected or not.
Anything else besides the dogs dying that you didn't like or were disappointed in?
Well, there is a lot of, like you said, sequel potential, because eventually you would think, okay, well, the United States is going to figure out that they haven't been able to contact that base in quite a while, right? And the Norwegians the same.
And they're trying to contact somebody. So I don't think.
But if they go, but eventually.
No one's coming till spring, Karen, which is
still okay.
Our winter. probably, but
the Norwegians, they figured out. So the Norwegians are going to say, hey, we haven't been able to get a hold of that compound. There's that big fucking crater that has the ship there. The same thing is going to be found by the next people that come in. So it is a relentless cycle. You got to wonder if the creature, the thing, is going to learn to do
the
better.
thing's dead, supposedly.
Well, unless one of the two remaining is Ornals.
Or when they blew up one of them, one of the other people could one molecule of blood
I don't know.
be still viable? I don't know.
That's what they,
What does it take?
And then the next team that comes in, if you can certainly clone it at this point, not in 1982, but if someone went back, I think they were cloning whole sheep in the early 90s, right?
The
Dolly.
2 heads.
No, they just cloned a whole sheep. So someone might find the blood and be like, ooh, let's clone this. And then it all starts all over again. There's our sequel. There, I wrote it for you. Come on. Did you not like anything?
No. Enjoyed it immensely. It was the perfect movie for a day like today, Karen, where I don't know what the weather is like in your neighborhood, but today was a very dark and rainy day. No thirsty work to be done outside. So it was a perfect movie just to sit inside and watch. And it's, what is it? 1 hour and 50 minutes or something like that. 109 minutes. And I didn't look at, I wasn't worried about it. 6 minutes of it is credits. I did make a note of that. When the credits start playing, I checked how much time was left, and it was like 6 minutes. So it's like 103 minutes of action, or not counting the opening credits, 102 minutes, whatever.
It's definitely very tense. And it's like a study of human interaction and how quickly paranoia and distrust can spread.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, Karen, what kind of cocktail rating you want to give it? I'm writing my answer before you say anything.
Well, yours is
and
a
I'm
2.
sticking to it.
Yours is a 2 and mine's a 3. So whatever you want is fine.
It's a 2, Karen. I'm glad we're in agreement. That whatever I say is fine.
Okay, Kurt Russell.
So this film has an 84% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, an 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb, and 86% of Google users enjoyed this film. I think
Do you
that's
have
pretty
any of the time?
Do you want to know if I have any critics review from the time,
Yes.
Karen?
Critics Corner, do you have any?
I do, Karen.
You
First
sound
one.
very excited by that. So hit us. What do you got?
First one's from Variety, December 31st, 1981. So they must have got a preview copy. It's not long, but I'm still going to paraphrase. If it's the most vividly gruesome monster ever to stalk the screen that audiences crave, then The Thing is the thing. On all other levels, however, John Carpenter's remake of Howard Hawks' 1951 sci-fi classic comes as a letdown. What the old picture delivered and what Carpenter has missed was a sense of intense dread, a fear that the loathed creature might be lurking around any corner or behind any door. Kurt Russell is the nominal hero, although suicidal attitude adopted towards the end undercuts his status as a center screen force. I completely disagree. There was an intense sense of dread. But
Kind of, but they did wander around the compound fairly. I can see why they said that. It's not nonchalantly, but it's like they already knew that it had to be in something else. It couldn't just be just blood on the floor or something, like it had to be. They weren't really paying attention to a lot of things.
But it could be any one of them. They don't know.
I know, but he trusted Window. It's weird. They were more afraid of each other and distrusting of each other than the creature, if
All
that
right.
makes sense.
Moving on. Roger
I don't
Ebert.
like your tone.
Finally. Roger Ebert, January 1st, 1982. The Thing is basically a gross out movie in which teenagers can dare one another to watch the screen. There's nothing wrong with that. I like being scared, and I was scared by many scenes in The Thing. But it seems clear that Carpenter made his choice early on to concentrate on the special effects and the technology and to allow the story and people to become secondary. Because this material has been done before and better, especially in the original The Thing and in Alien, there's no need to see this version unless you are interested in what The Thing might look like while starting from anonymous greasy organs extruding giant crab legs and transmuting itself into a dog. Amazing, I'll bet that thousands, if not millions, of moviegoers are interested in seeing just that.
Which sounds like the first one was really, really good.
I know. I'm
Because
wondering if
they've
we should see
mentioned
it now.
they've mentioned that one in comparison. Apparently, it pales in comparison, according to critics. But be interesting to see that one.
My next one is from the New York Times, 6/25/82, the day it was released. John Carpenter's The Thing is a foolish, depressing, overproduced movie that mixes horror with science fiction to make something that is fun as neither one thing or the other.
Wow.
It's a virtually storyless feature composed of lots of laboratory concocted special effects with the actors used merely as props to be hacked, slashed, disemboweled, and decapitated, finally to be eaten and then regurgitated as, guess what, more laboratory concocted special effects. Mr. Carpenter has demonstrated that he can make good, comparatively plain, old-fashioned scare movies and effective suspense thrillers, but he seems to lose his own head when he combines two or more genres, as he did in The Fog and does again here.
Two of your favorite movies got slammed.
So those are the reviews of the Times. I do have one other that is a more, well, this is from 1984, from the book that Dr. Craig used in his classes, Robin Wood on the Horror Film, Collected Essays and Reviews. So this is Robin Wood on The Thing from 1984. Carpenter's reworking of Hawk's 1951 The Thing, the original is quoted on a television set in Halloween, suggests that he has reached a temporary bankruptcy, lacking a single sympathetic or even interesting character with whom to identify. The spectator merely waits for the next eruption, admittedly spectacular, of special effects. So Robin Wood didn't like it either, even 3 years later.
I will say that he's kind of right in that we don't know the backstory of any of these characters. We don't have enough information on them to
I don't think it's needed.
to become emotionally attached. You know?
Maybe it's because we're looking back on it and we recognize the people in it. I mean, we've seen Kurt Russell in other things. We've seen Wilford Brimley in other things. So we kind of have an attachment to them in that way, right?
I guess, but I'm thinking more of
but
like
this film, when it came out, critics hated it. It didn't do well at the box office.
It didn't.
Because it was up against E.T., Karen.
Oh, well, that'll do it.
Came out the same week, I think. Didn't do well because critics panned it and there was E.T.
I saw E.T., did you?
Never seen it. But in the 90s, it gained, when it was on video and on cable a lot and stuff, it became kind of like a cult classic, and it's now like regarded as one of the best horror films ever made.
I wouldn't call it one of the best horror films ever made.
That's what they call it, Karen. I'm just telling you.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying I get it from a different perspective. Like, I get where you say it's not needed, but in a way it kind of is. Like, I would like to know, why is McReady, why is he so cavalier. Like, he'll go up in the storm. He'll fly over to the Norwegians. It doesn't matter that it's bad weather. He'll do it. What makes him so almost suicidal? Because he's suicidal at the end, too. He doesn't care if he dies.
So in later years, one critic said it's one of the greatest and most elegantly constructed B movies ever made. They call it a B movie, which is kind of a shot, right? Empire magazine selected it as one of the 500 greatest movies of all time. 500 at number 289. So it's middle, but it's still the 289th movie of all time. Numerous publications have ranked it as one of the best science fiction films, including number 4 by IGN and number 12 by The Thrillist. Number 17 by Game Radar Plus, number 31 by Paste, number 32 by Esquire, and Popular Mechanics.
Can't argue with Popular
I know,
Mechanics.
Popular Mechanics, Karen.
It's good, but I wouldn't call it that. But that you can't attempt.
It's a lot better than what the critics said it was at the time.
True, but is it? Would you have liked it at the time? It's hard to say.
Don't know. I was just a baby, Karen.
I know. Couldn't comprehend such things.
I couldn't even get into to see the film. I needed an adult escort.
I'm sure your mom would have taken you.
Please. I might even go as far as to saying, after watching this film from start to finish, that this might be my new favorite John Carpenter film.
Wow.
It used to be The Fog, which no one liked either. So maybe I have bad taste.
I think this is better than The Fog.
I think it is too, but that was my previous favorite John Carpenter film.
But I like the characters better in The Fog.
Not so much because, it's a cinematic masterpiece, talking about The Fog, but just because I like the story.
I liked the characters better in The Fog than this. But this had intensity almost from the very start to the very end. And it continues after
I learned enough about the characters in this without some big bunch of backstory bullshit.
I had to what makes
there aren't a lot of them, and it is hard to of course I have my notes with every character's name and what their job was. So I
had to keep looking back at my notes to see who was who. And there were too many of them to remember to care. You knew some were going to go, and I get you need those, but you just really, there was no,
9
except for the last two
count
that were left, Childs and Mac. Those were the only two that you really felt, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to keep track, and I had 9, but there's 11 plus McCready, so apparently I'm wrong. And then we got the 2 Norwegians to begin with, so that's 12 at least.
And that's without counting the dogs.
Not counting dogs. They're not people.
Better than some people, though.
Better than lots of people.
All right. Well, we get to have our own opinions, but I'll go with you and say it's a 2. And I think that definitely you should see it. I think it's certainly a great movie to see.
Yes.
Would I call it my favorite? No. Would I rank it that high?
Is it your
Probably
favorite
not.
John Carpenter film we've watched?
That we've watched?
Yeah.
Probably.
So we did Halloween, The Fog, In the Mouth of Madness, and this one.
Oh, that one was pretty good.
That one was pretty good.
Yeah.
It came after this.
I would say that one's probably my
In
favorite.
the Mouth of Madness?
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty close to me, but I think this one's better. And I will say that just recently, Karen, that at Texas Frightmare Weekend, John Carpenter did like a Q&A there.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he had just finished directing remotely a TV series called Suburban Screams. I guess he directed it from his couch, and he thought that was pretty cool. It was filmed in Prague, and he sat on his couch and directed it. He said it was awesome. And then at one point, he teased the potential release of The Thing 2. He shared with the crowd, "I have been sworn to secrecy, but there may be, I don't know if there will be, there may be a Thing 2.
Wow.
So there has not been a sequel. There has been a prequel, which you are well aware of, Karen.
Well, but only
But don't tell me anything about it because I don't want
only half well aware. So didn't really start to get into anything yet. So was laying the groundwork.
It took a half the movie to lay the groundwork.
Might have been 45 minutes in.
Let's see. I'm not going to like that one then. I don't need all that groundwork. Cut to the chase. All right. What are your comments on our cocktail, Karen? The Antarctic Freeze.
Well, despite the name, I think it's the lanai cocktail for sure. It's very summery and tropical.
Mine has evaporated, Karen.
It's good.
And I can drink quite a few of those on the lanai.
Yes, it's very good. If I had used more ice and it was all slushy like yours, I'd have my big hat. I'd have somebody bring me one of these every half an hour, whether I needed one or not.
A pool boy wearing a Speedo, Karen?
Sure. Well, if I get to pick the pool boy, you're not in charge of my pool boy.
So Jack Black in a Speedo is not your pool boy?
If he brought me one of these every half an hour, he'd be fun. He's probably really funny.
True.
Keep me entertained.
True. That is true.
Everybody's beautiful.
Yes, in their own way. And there a song in there somewhere, Karen.
Free to be you and me song.
Everything is beautiful in its own way.
Oh, I think there is.
Everything is beautiful. I'm not going to sing. Other than that. Anything we learned today, Karen?
Oh, let's see. Siberian Husky information. Antarctica facts. How big it is. How cold it can get in the Antarctic. How many episodes Monty Hall hosted. Let's Make a Deal. And a little bit about flamethrowers. You got a Kiss reference in there.
I did, Karen.
We talked a little bit about Iron Maiden.
We did, didn't we? And the source material, who goes there. And we learned that Adrienne Barbeau was the voice of the chess computer.
And we did learn about the dog actor, too. Jed, or what did you say?
Yep. Jed, the wolf dog. Okay, lots of facts. Lots of learning, just like every week, Karen.
We bring the fun.
All right, Karen, next film, I believe, is your choice. Is it? Is it not?
It must be, if it's after your choice.
And what would that be, Karen?
I have chosen the Silver Bullet movie.
Silver Bullet, Karen. When was that released?
In 1985. It's a Stephen King werewolf classic.
Any reason you chose it?
It features the 4th of July in it.
Oh, does it, Karen?
I think it does.
We'll see.
I hope it does. If not, then I've made an error.
We'll see.
Yes, we will.
Do we have a cocktail for that film?
We do.
And what would that be?
It's called the Shapeshifter Cocktail. You're going to need tequila, San Pellegrino orange soda, Chambord, lime juice, and soda water.
Sounds fun.
I think
Never seen it
good.
before.
It's a Stephen King classic.
That's what I hear. I do like me some Stephen King. So I think the Corey's in it, isn't it?
One of the Coreys.
Awesome.
It's just in time to celebrate the 4th of July.
Karen, anyone you need to thank this week?
Well, I'd like to thank our listener. There are a lot of podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. How about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Well, Karen, I need to thank Courtney from Columbus because she reached out to me this week because apparently she felt bad about no one contacting me, and she told me how much she enjoyed the show.
Do you feel better now?
I do feel better.
You laid it on pretty thick, so I hope she's not the only one that contacts you.
I do too. So
you can reach out to Greg at greg@scaryspirits.com.
Or info@scaryspirits.com. I'll get them all. Or comment on one of our YouTube videos, whatever. Or comment on one of our posts on our website, whatever. I'll see it all.
Or on our socials.
Yeah.
Because we're social.
We are. I also need to thank the great people of the state of Colorado.
They stepped
And
up this week.
they did, Karen, in a big way. And I need to thank, I don't know how to say their first name, but I'm just going to say Mr. Gadfrey.
Oh, you really pulled out the last name too. So we probably
Gadfrey,
butchered
yeah,
the whole thing.
I know. Was it Godfrey or Gadfrey? I don't know. With
Was
an
it
A.
an A? I
Yeah.
think it's probably Gadfrey.
Gadfrey. But they subscribe to our newsletter, so thank you.
Ooh, how
You'll
do you
be
do
getting our
that?
Well, apparently, Karen, you go to our website, there's a link to subscribe to our newsletter, or like it just pops up on the page.
It's a
Subscribe to our
pop-up?
newsletter right here. Yeah. And if you
Wow.
subscribe from the pop-up, you will gain access to the latest newsletter right then. You can download it right then.
Ooh, it's an exciting one this month too.
Is it? It's about the
They all are.
Well, yeah, of course.
What are you gonna say? Well, don't do this one. It's a real dud.
I remember this one has
Summer solstice in
yes,
it, Greg.
yes, that one. With Stonehenge. That's the word I was looking
Yes, that's it.
for. And Malcolm McDowell.
You can tell Greg's
I like
heavily
Malcolm McDowell.
involved in the newsletter.
I was kind of surprised that Malcolm McDowell was featured because The Clockwork Orange is one of my favorite films. It's not really a horror film, so we'll
That's the
probably will never
problem.
do it.
Yes.
But I do enjoy that film. And I need to thank Crimson Ghost, and then in parentheses, The Fiend, for subscribing to our YouTube channel, Karen.
Well, that's quite the name.
It is.
Now
if
I
that
feel
is your
bad.
real name.
I can't use that one now.
And of course, I need to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all of the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, where the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are always solid. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast, or go to our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want the direct line, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. If you really want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And remember, always drink responsibly. See you next week.